Hi, everybody. In today's episode, you're going to need a box of tissues. It's a sad one, but it's a story that needs to be told. And I think everyone needs to hear what happened in this case. Welcome back to Crafting and Crime Daily. I'm Rebecca, your host, and I recap live trials that are going on YouTube. And currently, it's Thanksgiving week. There aren't any. So last week, there was a hearing in Florida. It was a full-blown, all-day hearing to determine the sentencing of Spencer Pearson. Now, Spencer's a 19-year-old kid who attempted to murder Madison Schemitz, who at the time was 17. He was 18 at the time. Her mother, Jacqueline O.J., and a good Samaritan, Kennedy Armstrong, who saved their lives, even Spencer's life. So how did all this play out? We're going to talk about that because during this hearing, we're going to hear witnesses, not just for the victim impact statements, but in support of the defense's request for a downward departure from the mandatory minimum sentence of 18 and a half months. Florida uses a score sheet, and it's complicated. It's hard to explain, but they come out with a number. It's so many months, divided by 12, comes out to be 18 and a half years for what he did on June 3rd of 2023. So this occurs in a little community called Ponte Verde, which is a suburb of Jacksonville, Florida. So way up north Florida. If you're in Jacksonville, you're almost in Georgia. I'm just telling you. So a little unincorporated community near the beach. It's very nice. And there's this restaurant there called Chubby's. They serve chicken wings, Chubby's Wings. It sounds delicious, actually. This happened to be like Spencer's favorite place to go with his dad. It's a sports bar. They could sit, they could watch the games. He was really into football. He and his dad would go and watch the games. Madison would go with her mom, Jacqueline, and they would watch the games. And when Madison and Spencer were dating, they were a couple, they would go there. It's like the local haunt, I guess. So the wings must be delicious. Anyway, I digress. So the defense in this case has asked the judge to depart downward from the 18 and a half months minimum mandatory sentence. He can do 18 and a half months all the way up to life in prison. And the defense is saying at the time that Spencer committed these acts, he was under a mental disease or defect that's not related to alcohol or drugs, and that he didn't understand the consequences of his actions. So we're going to hear from doctors. We're going to hear from Spencer's parents. We're going to hear from the lead case agent. We'll hear from Madison herself. We'll hear from Spencer. He's going to make a little speech. And there's some, Madison put together, bless her heart, she put together a compilation and of a video compilation of what she went through to recover from this event. So this is, Saturday afternoon. But I want to talk to you about before we get to this Saturday afternoon. Spencer and Madison are dating. Madison, she's very popular at school. She's captain of the softball team, very athletic. Everybody loves Madison. She's got a great personality. She's sweet as pie. And Spencer just loved being with her, and she breaks up with him. Now, I'm not sure how long they were together, maybe 6 months or so. Not a long time. So Spencer doesn't take it well. becomes very depressed. Now, his father says, he's never been in any trouble. He's not a violent kid. He grew up playing football and baseball and soccer, but his favorite thing was football. He played football from the age of 6 years old all the way up until he was 18. He played football. He loved football. Where was I going with this? Oh, they break up. Spencer's not taking it well, very depressed. He starts sitting on the couch, not doing anything. Nope. Just sitting there staring for hours. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what each witness says, but after the breakup, he's got this behavior going on. His father gets a text one night that says, "I love you, Dad." Now, Spencer's upstairs. At the same time, they get a phone call from Madison's mom saying, "You better check on Spencer. He's threatening to kill himself." His dad runs up the stairs, opens the room, his bedroom. He's not there. Starts looking all over the room for him, checks the closet. He's hanging in the closet. So he screams out, calls for his wife. She comes running in. They lift him up to release the pressure. He's already turning colors. He's not dead, obviously. Turning colors. He's got a necktie around his neck. And they save his life. They take him to a hospital in Jacksonville where he undergoes mental health treatment. And he's held there under what they call a Baker Act. And the Baker Act it just means you are held for 72 hours involuntarily while they evaluate you for whether you're a danger to yourself or others, and they put you on medication. And he was there for 5 days. He gets out of that place on a Saturday. Mom and Dad drive him home with instructions to call this particular psychologist on Monday and get him there. So on Monday comes around, they call this psychologist. She's like, "Oh no, not taking any new patients." So they turn to their insurance company. Their insurance company gives them a list of the providers that, they have on their plan. And Mom and Dad start making phone calls, and nobody is they're either taking new patients and you can get appointment in 3 to 6 months, or they're not taking patients. And I'm going to tell you, that's the norm. That's not out of the ordinary in this country. It's not. So then Mom and Dad start asking friends and family, what can we do? What do you suggest? We'll pay for it ourselves. They find this place called Here Tomorrow. No psychologist or psychiatrist there, just mental health counselors. So they said, okay, it's better than nothing. We're going to take him there. They take him there. He has one appointment. One. So he's supposed to be on this medication. He's not really being compliant. He was supposed to have a follow-up visit with the psychiatrist for medication renewal. Psychiatrists don't do treatment. They just hand out, and they don't do counseling. They just hand out drugs, and they make sure, hey, you're not having any thoughts of killing yourself. Oh no. That's what a psychiatrist does. I'm oversimplifying that. I really am. But they don't go to the appointment. He's not out of medication because he's not taking it. So Mom's out gardening one day, and she sees Spencer get in his truck and take off. It's a Saturday, June 3rd. She's like, "Spencer, where are you going?" He's like, "Oh, I'm going to go to the beach for a little while. I just need to get out." And she's thinking, "Oh, good. He's coming around. He's going to be okay." He drives to Chubby's for his last meal because he's planning to kill himself. We learn later, he's planning to have his last meal at his favorite restaurant that he enjoyed going to with his dad, and then going down to the beach, cutting his throat, and just looking up at the sky while he passes away. That's not how things played out. So he gets to Chubby's, and he sits at a table. Now, I don't know if he saw right away that Madison was at a table with her mom, Jacqueline, and a couple of their friends. Madison had gone there with her friend, and they ended up calling their moms, hey, come down and join us. Madison admitted because we wanted them to pay the bill. But the four of them, and you can see there's surveillance footage. So we see the surveillance footage. There's surveillance footage at Chubby's. It's this chicken wing place. Did I mention that? Yeah, sports bar. So they have a surveillance camera in the bar and outside the bar. So you see Spencer entering the bar. He takes a tabletop, a stool with a tabletop, and he places his order for some mozzarella sticks. And at some point, you can see Madison spies him. She recognizes that he's there, and you see her getting sort of panicky. So she and her mom, they sit there for a little bit longer, and then they eventually get up and they leave. He follows them and starts chasing them. Madison says she never dreamed she would have to run for her life. He has got this ungodly, huge knife with him that he brought to the restaurant. And he attacks Madeline and Jacqueline with this knife. Both of them suffered multiple stab wounds, and we're going to talk about that. And afterwards, during this, Kennedy notices what's going on, and he gets Spencer off of them. Spencer gets stabbed in the hand, and not Spencer, I'm sorry. Kennedy gets stabbed in the hand. Spencer cuts his throat, thinking, I'm committing suicide. He didn't die. He did not die. So let's talk about this. So the lead agent, she testifies, and basically she responded to this event. She gathers all the information, and she mentions who the injured people are. So 4 people injured: Madison, her mother, Kennedy, the Samaritan, and Spencer. So the first person they put on the stand is Spencer's father. He explains that he's got 2 older children than Spencer and 1 younger. And he says Spencer was a quiet, gentle kid. No history of any violence, no issues with school, and he recently had, he had off and on anxiety. No criminal history. He loved football. He played soccer, baseball, but he played football. I don't know if you see where I'm going with this. He played football from the age of 6 until he was 18. Pop Warner League and all that stuff, junior high. It's not until high school that this whole concussion protocol goes into place. Pretty widespread in high school. Prior to that, this kid, his whole career in football had been playing defensive end and taking thousands of hits. Not always head injuries, but lots and lots of hits. Conservatively, the father estimated, with all the practices and games, and probably over 10,000 times. Conservatively. Then they showed this video compilation of him playing football and getting hit in the head over and over again. See where I'm going? Concussive syndrome. And he suffered 2 known concussions during his football career. In high school, he played the defensive end. He did his whole, from 6 years old to 18, 12 years. 12 years of hits in the head. And he did special teams. Also, you're taking hits. And then he suffered another head injury when he was playing by the pool, and he hit his head on the concrete. Then closer to, this is his senior year. He gets COVID his senior year, and he is out of school for 2 weeks, misses 2 weeks of football. And it's at this point that he's starting to get anxious, depressed. He said he was trying to have a normal senior year. He started a relationship with Madison in October of 2022. And then she breaks up with him and wasn't handling it well. Either that or she broke up with him on October 22nd. I'm not sure how that date plays. I wrote down October 22nd. I don't know if that's when they started or ended the relationship, but he didn't handle it well. He said he was very wrapped up in this relationship and he was very insecure because Madison, he's really popular, So she breaks up with him and he becomes very sad, depressed. He starts not eating. He would sit on the couch for hours and he wasn't interacting with anyone. Then I told you about them exploring treatment, the text that he got. Let's see what else Dad had to say. Then Dad says, I want to take a minute to apologize to the victims. So he just really, this gut-wrenching, heartfelt apology to Madison and her mom and thanking Kennedy for saving his son's life and the lives of Madison and Jacqueline. He said he was aware of the behaviors his son was exhibiting towards Madison, and we're going to talk about those later. And based on those, they had taken his phone away probably about within a week before this event occurring. So the first doctor we get is via Zoom, and his name is Dr. Mark Rubino. He's a neurologist with a special interest in head injuries. He did a head injury evaluation, which included an MRI of the brain. And first they talked about the adolescent brain. I've talked about this before. Adolescents, their brain is not fully developed until they're about 25 years old. He was 18 at the time. So you've got someone who's already got this adolescent brain, which, to boil it down, just you're a little bit more impulsive than you are as an adult. We think things through. In other words, adolescents, they don't think things through. So, but in addition, on the MRI, he finds brain injury, evidence of a brain injury that had occurred over time from the multiple head injuries. He also had what he observed to be a right frontal lobe injury. There was scarring on his right frontal lobe. This would result in attention deficit. His planning would be impaired. He'd be impulsive, difficulty calming himself down, and difficulty controlling his emotions. Then we had heard from a Dr. Michael Held, who's a trauma surgeon. Now, he talked about what occurred with Madison. Madison was stabbed 12 times, 9 times in the back, and they showed it. I'm not going to show it. They showed before the stapling and after the stapling. Once in the right upper extremity, which is your arm, right arm, the anterior chest, so back this way, and the axilla. Axilla is your armpit. So 12 stab wounds. One of those stab wounds on her back was significant. He said that was the worst of all of them. And it resulted in her lung collapsing. She had not just a right lung collapse, but a left lung collapse. And when she's on the stand, she takes the stand and she talks for 47 minutes about her experience. But one of the things she said was she couldn't breathe. Couldn't breathe at the scene. They put her, EMS responds, they get her into an ambulance, they're trying to save her life, they're, trying to stop the bleeding and waiting for a helicopter to come get her. So a helicopter gets there, they put her on the helicopter and they take her to a trauma hospital in Jacksonville. That's where this Dr. Held gets involved. She had to have multiple surgeries that day to save her life. But she also suffered a spinal cord injury, which resulted in paralysis from, he's described in, she had a thoracic fracture, T4, which means she would not have been able to feel anything from, like if you lift up your breast, that if you draw a line from there down, she would not, she would have spotty, she had spotty feeling. She could feel some things, not others, but no motor function. She couldn't walk. She couldn't feel anything. And he described this American Spinal Injury Association. They do this scale of injuries, and the worst, this is how they classify them. The worst is A. You are paralyzed, neck down, paralyzed. Through E, which is the least amount of damage. She was a B. Yeah. So when Madison spoke, she talked about her recovery. For the next year after this, she underwent, she spent like a week and a half in the hospital. Then she goes to a rehab facility and spends the next year recuperating. She fought hard. She fought really, really hard. I want to show you the compilation she put together of her recovery.
You'll raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So
Yes. Make sure mine a little bit. I know you're loud. State your name for the record first, Martin.
Madison Schemitz.
Before you speak today, did you provide a compilation video that outlines your recovery and essentially what you've been through the last year and a half?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, I'm going to publish that at this time.
any objection?
See the video, so. No objection.
All right. You may publish.
What's the address of the emergency?
Somebody just got stabbed right in front of Tubby's. This boy has just stabbed a girl.
You guys need to come quick.
We need an ambulance.
You don't have to be scared.
17-year-old man
Madison Schemitz.
was stabbed 15 times in the attack.
Outside Mr. Chubby's in Ponte Verde on Saturday.
The attack also sent her mother and a good Samaritan to the hospital.
Madison suffered a spinal cord injury. She is now paralyzed from the chest down.
So following this compilation, she speaks for 47 minutes. The clip was 47 minutes total with the compilation. She obviously is reading from something she wrote from her heart, and she details everything that, leading up to what happened, including after the breakup, where he was stalking her. He would follow her everywhere in his vehicle to a point where she didn't feel safe, going home. One night she drove to a friend's house because she knew they were home and they could help her out. And he just would not leave her alone. Texting, calling. He would not leave her alone. So then she also details, running from him, what she felt during the stabbing, what she felt when she could no longer feel anything, what she was hearing, what she was going through, all in incredible detail. If you want to watch just what she had to say, you can look that up on YouTube. There are videos out there with just what she said. You will need tissues. Incredible person, absolutely an incredible person. And then when she was done, I want to play what happened in this courtroom when she finished.
Your Honor, I could talk for hours on end about the way that the defendant has negatively impacted each of our lives. But I think after each of these impact statements, it is apparent, it is real, it is constant, and it is daily. Every day is a reminder of the trauma we all endured on June 3rd, 2023. Every day I'm affected by the physical and mental impacts of the defendant's actions. And every day is a reminder of just how cruel, monstrous, and evil the defendant truly is. There is no excuse for his actions. There will never be an excuse. On that day, the defendant chose to try and take my life. He chose to try and take my mother's life, and he chose to severely harm a good and innocent stranger. Your Honor, I can confidently say I am one of the least deserving human beings to have to go through what I have been forced to go through. Your Honor, this is something I will have to deal with for the rest of my life, something I should never have to deal with, and something the defendant should never have the opportunity to do again. Your Honor, on June 3rd, 2023, I was given my own life sentence by the defendant, and I plead with you that the defendant receives the same justified sentence and deserved punishment. Thank you.
Please quiet down. Ladies and gentlemen, please sit down. Please sit down.
You still have any tissues left? Yeah. Sad. Now, her mother took the stand, and her mother, clearly very angry still with Spencer, very, very angry, said, how she hates him and she hopes he gets life in prison, and not at the forgiving stage yet. But she talks about her injuries as well. She had a cut on her forehead from like here to here. I don't want to show the pictures because they're kind of gruesome. A hand injury where she broke a bone in her hand and had a tendon severed. So she had to have surgery on her hand. And the knees and tops of her feet were scraped from where she was trying to get to Madison. And then she had a 9-inch thigh wound that had to be sutured. Wow. Then Kennedy Armstrong takes the stand. He was stabbed in his right hand, and you could see his hand. His pinky's all deformed, and I think he has one of his digits gone. He basically said, my hand was cut in half, basically, is what it was. So he has permanent mobility issues with his hand. His pinky is deformed. He had to have 3 to 4 surgeries. He used to be a carpenter. He can no longer do that. So, yeah. So then we have a forensic psychologist get to stand. We're going back to the defense here. And we kept going from defense to prosecution, and you really had to pay attention to figure out who was presenting what witness, because they were sort of doing it based on availability of these doctors that day. So this is Harry Kropp, Dr. Harry Kropp, forensic psychologist, impairment. He used average intelligence, significant levels of depression and anxiety that were chronic in nature, going back to way back before he was even with Madison. According to the sister, he's saying he didn't get the sense that the parents appreciated this symptom earlier than when they broke up. But his sister did, his older sister. So he diagnosed him with major depressive disorder with psychotic features. Because he said he was hearing voices, but he says he's not suffering from psychosis. No. He says, the hearing voices things, he says, I don't think he was malingering, but I think he was not talking about actually hearing voices. He was just talking about, how you have conversations in your head. I have it all the time. I'm not hearing voices, but that's how he explained it. So, yeah. The other thing was he said that, people are out to get him. And he said, he's probably not wrong, because let me tell you, this courtroom was packed with Madison's friends. Yeah, this was his senior year. He was life flighted as well, helicoptered over to a hospital in Jacksonville as well for his injuries. And they were able to save his life. He never returned to school, never, even after his trying to hang himself, he never slept in his bedroom, slept on the couch, never returned to school, didn't attend his graduation. Yeah. So continuing with the diagnosis, is he had severe and chronic depression with recurrent episodes. He has social anxiety, and again, on the autism spectrum. He said, no, he's not psychotic. He has no psychopathic traits. He's not at risk for future violent behavior, and he's medicated. So, and now because he realizes what he's done, he is compliant with medication. But he does need intensive therapy. So, and it was this doctor that testified about his plan to kill himself that day, how he was going to have his last meal. And yeah, then the state puts on their forensic psychologist who says, oh, he was feigning things. He doesn't hear voices. Well, he's not wrong, but that's what the other guy just said. And he agreed that he is suffering from social anxiety disorder. He doesn't agree with the autism. He says, nah, he's not on the spectrum. He says people mix up severe social anxiety disorder with autism. He says two different things. He's not autistic. Okay. So that was his testimony. Then they put on a police officer named George Harrigan. And I want you to listen to his testimony. It's not long. He reads something that he wrote. He talks about how he met Madison and what she has achieved since suffering from this injury. Take a listen.
Objection, I'm going to permit this witness to testify. Sir, if you'll raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and have a seat. Study.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I met Madison on July 7th, 2023, 34 days after the event that changed her life. Madison called a press conference, and she wanted to address the community. She closed that press conference with these words: "My story is just getting started." Now, I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I'm here now to give you a glimpse, a small glimpse into Madison's story that I have experienced over the last 16 months. During her senior year of high school, Madison teamed up with the One Love Foundation and started a One Love Club at Ponte Verde High School to educate other young people about healthy and unhealthy relationships. Due to Madison's influence, several One Love clubs have been started at area high schools. The University of North Florida ladies softball team invited Madison to throw out the first pitch at a home game they dedicated to the One Love Foundation. UNF has now adopted the One Love mission. She's spoken in front of clubs, organizations, and teams. She's been a guest speaker at the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office events, fire rescue events, and is known to frequently visit both agencies. She's been recognized by numerous organizations for her passion to help others, and she's become a sought-after speaker. At the beginning of this month, Madison was the keynote speaker at a law enforcement conference in Washington State, where she shared her story of overcoming trauma with hundreds of attendees. Her influence on patients and staff at Brooks Rehabilitation has been nothing less than incredible. Madison will be featured in a Brooks Thanksgiving Day commercial to be aired during the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade and will be named the 2024 Brooks Rehabilitation Champion during a gala at the beginning of this year, next year. People from around the country have reached out to her, and she's been an inspiration to those who have experienced their own trauma. She should have entered her senior year playing softball and looking forward to an athletic scholarship, but instead she spent her senior year balancing intensive physical therapy, schoolwork, and fighting to walk again while learning to do life differently. One of the national news organizations in this case used the line to describe her as a star athlete. And it's easy for us to make the mistake of thinking that she was an athlete. But you see, Madison has been more of an athlete in the last 16 months than most of us will be in our entire lives. Her grit, strength, resilience, and incredible spirit has gripped this community and now the nation. On behalf of the more than 1,000 members of the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, we are and always will be Madison Strong. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you.
So he didn't mention this, but he is the public information officer for St. Johns County. That's the person that does like press releases. If anything happens, he's the guy in front of the camera, basically. And that is how he met Madison. He mentions the One Love organization. I did want to tell you a little bit that I looked up that organization. I want to tell you about their mission. Where to go? Here it is. They talk about unhealthy relationships a lot. One Love Foundation, it says, together we are ending relationship abuse and creating a world of healthier relationships. Behind the mission, One Love's team consists of truly passionate and hardworking individuals who work tirelessly every day to advance the cause. I wanted to give you their mission statement. Our foundation was founded to honor the tragic death of yearly love by engaging young people through compelling, relatable films and honest conversations around healthy and unhealthy relationship behaviors. So that's what he is referring to when he talks about this One Love organization. Madison is a pretty incredible person. Pretty incredible. So the defendant does speak briefly. So here is the defendant speaking.
All right.
Your Honor, I'm here before you today to take responsibility for my actions of June 3rd, 2023. And most importantly, I'm here to express my sincerest apology to Madison, Ms. Roger, Mr. Armstrong, I'm sure June 3rd was the worst day of their lives. It was also the worst day of mine and always will be. On this day, I hurt 3 innocent people. I think of my terrible crimes committed every second of every day. It's on my mind constantly, and this will never, ever change. I pray that Madison, Ms. Roger, and Mr. Armstrong make full recoveries. I can't begin to imagine what I've put them through, the negative effects I've had on everyone involved. I understand the anger and hatred they all have for me. I will never understand any negativity or ill will directed towards my family regarding this subject. They did not do this. I did. There are good people trying to do good in this world, not evil. My parents tried their absolute best to get me help with the limited knowledge and the limited time they had. They are completely devastated, and they want their son to get help more than anything. Your Honor, I try my best to live myself after what I've done, but I just don't know how. I need serious help, and I have for a long time. And I'm so sorry for what this has come to, and I'm so sorry for my actions. I ask for forgiveness, and I ask for mercy. I ask for the chance to get help so I can return to my family and do good in this world. Thank you for your time. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr.
And then the judge takes a break before he comes back with his sentence. So here is the judge's sentence.
Are there any matters that we need to address before the court imposes sentence from the state, from the defense? Is there any legal reason why this court cannot impose sentence at this time, Mr. Petraeus?
No, Your Honor.
This court has given this case a tremendous amount of thought, not just today, but in the days and weeks leading up to this sentencing hearing. This is a difficult case. This court has faced several very difficult cases recently, and this one is no different. The defense in this case has filed a motion and requested for this court to depart below the guideline sentence. As previously stated, the minimum sentence based upon the guidelines is 227.25 months in Florida State Prison. In analyzing the defense's motion and request for the court to downward depart, the defense has presented throughout the course of this sentencing hearing evidence and testimony that would meet the preponderance of the evidence that would permit this court to deviate and downward depart. The court does find that the defense has met its burden, showing the defendant's capacity to appreciate the criminal nature of the conduct. He does require some specialized treatment for a mental disorder that is unrelated to substance abuse or addiction or for physical disability, and the defendant is amenable to treatment. I don't know that I agree that this was an unsophisticated manner. I'm not going to find that as to that factor. And I do believe that the defendant is old enough to appreciate the consequences of the offense. So the only factor that the court does find that the defense has met is the fact that he does require some specialized treatment for a mental disorder that is unrelated to substance abuse or addiction or for physical disability. that the analysis of downward departure does not stop at the defense's meeting the threshold and establishing by preponderance of the evidence that there are mitigating circumstances that would permit this court to deviate below that guideline sentence. The second prong of that analysis is whether or not the court should. June 3rd of 2023, the events that unfolded on that afternoon were horrific. This defendant launched a vicious attack on a 17-year-old girl who had done nothing but show him love. And only weeks earlier had done her part to try to save his life when he attempted suicide. The same person that tried to save his life, he violently and viciously attacked. Many folks in this courtroom have declared Kennedy Armstrong a hero. This court has no quarrel with that assessment. Kennedy Armstrong is most certainly a hero. And but for his actions and the actions of Madison's mother, this defendant would have successfully killed Madison Schemitz. That crime, the crime that was described and shown here today, and the result of that crime, and the impact of this crime that it has had on all three of the victims in this case, leads this court to the conclusion that any deviation below the guidelines is inappropriate. So I'm declining and denying the defendant's motion for downward departure. I have considered the mitigating circumstances that have been well presented by the defense in this case. Mr. Kuchergis, you have done an excellent job in representing your client and providing this court with mitigation. And this court has carefully thought and weighed and considered your client's age, his lack of any prior criminal history, the fact that he was suffering from a clearly a depressive state of mind when this happened, his age. This court does not impose a sentence based on vengeance, as was mentioned, that courts are not here to sentence out of vengeance. This court has carefully thought about all of the mitigation in this case. But the crime that was committed the impact that this crime has had on Madison, Jacqueline, and Kennedy. It just far outweighs any of the mitigation that this court has considered. There are just certain crimes that are committed that merit the maximum possible sentence. And this court finds that this is one of them. Spencer Pearson, you have entered a plea of guilty to 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder with a weapon. As to counts 1 and 3 of the information, you are adjudicated guilty. You are sentenced to serve the remainder of your life in prison. As to count 5, you are adjudicated guilty. You are sentenced to serve 30 years in Florida State Prison. All sentences are to run concurrent with each other. Madam Clerk, please reflect that he is 536 days that he has previously served and imposed the standard felony court costs. Mr. Pearson, you have 30 days to appeal the legality of this court sentence. If you wish to appeal but cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you. This court is adjourned.
Your Honor, believe the state has to know.
Okay, so that was the judge. And let me just, he explained very well that this is a balancing act. And he felt like the defense had made the case for him suffering a mental disease or defect. Yes, you're right. He's got one. He needs treatment. You're right. But that does not outweigh, the scales of justice. It doesn't outweigh the aggravating factors, and he can appeal that. And I'll be interested to hear what the appellate court says about this decision, because I did not expect that he would give this kid life in prison after saying, yes, you have a mental disease or defect you were suffering from, but. So the woman you heard cry out was his mother, and here are his parents. I can read lips, and I don't show it to you, but one of the officers was asking his supervisor, can we let them do this? And they did let them hug their son. Watch. That's heartbreaking. Not only is this case about relationship abuse, it's also about our struggle in this country to get mental health. It's difficult. It's very, very difficult to get mental health for yourself, for your kids. It's, and we need to be teaching parents how to recognize these symptoms. If your son, I remember my son breaking up with his girlfriend in high school. Oh my Lord, I thought he was going to jump off a cliff. He was so distraught. And he kept saying, "No, Mom, I got to go see her," and she kept threatening to, he was trying to break up with her, and she was like, "I'm going to cut myself. I'm going to hurt myself." This is what these kids go through in high school. It's sad. So my son didn't end up needing mental health, but I'm sure that girl did. I'm really sure. She was a cutter. And, my son's now in his 40s, but he knows who that girl is. I think he ran into her on Facebook or something. Anyway, so that is this story. I would love to hear what your comments are regarding this story, regarding the importance of recognizing when our children need mental health counseling, and from a psychologist, a licensed psychologist. I mean, their counselors are okay, but group therapy is okay, but you need a psychologist to be evaluating your child, and how we need to get our legislatures to pass mental health laws, and make it easier for us to get mental health. It's terrible that I don't know if there's a shortage of providers or what. I know where I live, there are a shortage of providers. We have WSU, Wichita State University, where there's tons of people graduating with medical degrees, and they want to specialize in psychiatry, but they don't stay in the area. They leave once they graduate. So there is a shortage here. Yeah. So that's the case. I would love to know your thoughts in the comments about this One Love organization. If you're looking and you want to support that organization and their mission, there's a link down in the description to their website where you can make a donation to help that organization. Have a great day, everybody, and I will see you in the next video. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button on your way out and subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.